Hey, are you an Avengers fan? About me, I am a very big one. So let's do something very interesting this time. And how about an Avengers Chat application?
And what is this Avengers Chat?
It is an Avengers Chat, man. Come here, I'll show you. So, this is the Avengers Chat that I'm talking about. This is the home screen, and here you can choose your hero or your Avenger. So we have all the Avengers here. My favorite is Iron Man, and we have this list. Spider-Man is also coming next month. So this is our home screen. Let's select my favorite, Iron Man. I have that t-shirt as well. So here is the chat, and we can select the hero to chat. Cool, right?
Wow, that's cool, man.
Yeah, it is. So if you want to learn how to build this chat application or this Avengers chat application, then that's what we are going to do in this video. And while building this application, you will learn a lot of things related to Android application development. So it is a win-win situation for you. So let's start. Hi everyone, my name is Bilal Khan and I am a developer advocate at Stream. I have divided this series in three sections. In the first one, we are going to learn about building the home screen. So you already seen the application, and in the home screen, we see the list of Avengers. Now to build the screen, we need an API that will give us the list of Avengers. And to make things simpler, I already have the API ready. So you can see this API. So we will hit this URL and we will get this response. So it is basically list of Avengers that we will display in the application. So every object has the ID name. Now this token here is the stream authentication token. And if you don't know about these, then you must watch the integrating Stream SDK video first. I will leave the link here and you can watch that video because there I have covered the basics about Stream SDK. So this is the Stream Authentication Token or JWT token. Then we have color, then we have quote. We also have a video if you want to display on the Avengers screen. We have live channel ID and we have the poster for the Avenger. So basically we will hit this API in this video and we will build our home screen where we are using a recycler view to display a horizontal list of Avengers. So let's come back to our project and see how we can build this screen. So this is an Android project that I created using an empty activity, and it is an almost empty project. I have not created anything yet except some XML files. So this is the main activity and this will be our home screen where we will display the list of Avengers. Now to display the list of Avengers, the first thing we need to fetch the list from that API. So let's code this part very quickly. I have already added the dependencies for network calls. I am going to use retrofit. So what I will do is I will create a new package inside my home package. So I will name it, let's say, data. And inside data, I will create a Kotlin interface. I will name it Avengers API, or you can name it anything you want. Now inside this API, I will create a get request. Now we need to get the endpoint and I will get the endpoint from my URL. So the endpoint is avengers.json. So let's write it here, avengers.json. Now I will create a suspending function and I will name it get Avengers. Now the return type would be list of Avenger. And to store an Avenger, we also need to create a data class that will map the JSON object to our Kotlin data class. So our data class is ready. Now we will use this data class to define the response type. And the response type is a list of Avenger like this. Now what I will do is I will create a companion object here and I will create an operator fun invoke. Now this will return me Avengers API. So I will define the return type as Avengers API, and here I will write return retrofit dot builder dot set base URL, and for the base URL I will pass our base URL. So let's copy the base URL. So this is the base URL. Then I will add converter factory. So I will write add converter factory. I will use JSON converter factory dot create, and then finally I will build the retrofit instance, and from the retrofit instance I will build the API. And to build the API we use this create function, and inside create function I will pass Avengers API class.java like this. Now this invoke will return us Avengers API, and we can call this get Avengers function to get our list of Avengers. Now because we are going to make an API call, we also need to handle the error cases. And to wrap our API result into specific result cases, we will create a sealed class that will handle three cases: success, failure, and loading. So inside my data package, I will create one more Kotlin file class, and I will name it, let's say, resource. You can name it whatever you want, but it will be a sealed class. Now inside the sealed class, I will create some data classes, and the first class that I will create is success data class. So I will create a data class success like this, and this class will give me the data that is fetched from the API. So I will make this class a generic class. So for the type I have defined T. Now this class will give me data of type T. That's it. And we need to extend resource because we are going to create a strict class hierarchy. So every class will extend or inherit the sealed class resource. I hope you already know about Kotlin sealed classes. So we have data class success. Now we will create one more data class, that is failure. And for failure, we will define the error code and the error body. You can define the values as per your requirement, but in this case, the error code and the error body are good enough. So let's define error code. So I will write val error code as int and val error body as response body, and I will make it nullable so that we can even pass null. So we have data class failure, we have data class success, and this failure will also extend resource like this. Now one more class we need to create is for loading, and because loading will not have any data, I will define it as object, and I will simply write object loading, and I will extend resource like this. One more thing that we need to do is we need to define the generic type as we defined here for resource as well. So I will write T here. Now we need to define the type while extending resource like this. So we have resource of type T that we defined here, and the same thing we will do with failure. But in this case, that is failure, we do not have a type. So what we can do here is we can define the type as nothing, because when it is failure, we are getting nothing from the API. And the same thing we will do with this loading. So we have three cases: success, failure, and loading. Now we will create one more class to make the API call. So I will create a class and I will name it, let's say, safe API call. Now instead of creating a class, what we can do is we can create an interface, because I will not create an instance of this class, but I will use this interface as the API caller for all my repositories. Now inside this interface, I can create a suspend fun API call, and this function will take another function as an argument. So what I will write here is I will write API call, or let's name the function as safe API call, and this argument as API call, or you can play with the names, whatever you like, you can write it. So I have API call. Now the type would be a suspending function and the return type would be T, because right now I am not defining a type and I'm going to use generic type. So what I will do is I will define this type here after this fun keyword. So this API call will be a suspending function that will return the data that we are getting from the API. Now what we will do is we will call this function API call inside this safe API call function, and I will wrap it inside try and catch, because when I will hit the API I can get success or I can get error, and that is why I am wrapping it inside try and catch. Now I can write return here. So return, try and catch. Inside the try block, I will create resource.success. Now when it is a success, we need to provide the data of type T, and we are getting this T from this function. So what we will do is we will call this function here. In case this try block did not succeed, that means some error has occurred and we will come inside catch block. That means we have an error. So inside catch block, I will return resource.failure. Now for failure, we need to pass the error code and the error body. And for now, I will just pass any error code. Let's say I have the error code 401. And for error body, we have to pass response body that we defined in our sealed class. So what I'll do is first I will check if the exception is an HTTP exception, and we need to use this retrofits HTTP exception. Now if it is an HTTP exception, what we will do is we will pass the code. We will use e.code and we will get e.error body. It is actually inside e.response.error body. So we will pass the error body like this. For any other case, we will write resource.failure and we can pass any code, let's say 411, and null for the response body. Now we have the try catch ready. We just need to define the return type for our safe API call. So we will define the return type as resource of type T. Now here we are getting some error, and it is because I just forget to write this out keyword here in my resource. It means my resource will produce T, and you can see the error is gone. I will put a null safety operator here, and we have our safe API call function ready. Now we will use this function in our repository. So let's create a repository to hit the API. So I will create a Kotlin file class and I will name it Avengers repository like this. Now this class will inherit the safe API call because I need to use the function safe API call. And inside this Avengers repository, I will create a function that will hit the API to get the list of Avengers. Now before calling the API, I need the API. So I will pass the API inside my constructor, inside this Avengers repository constructor. So I will write here private val API and it is Avengers API. Now I will create another suspending function here. So we have suspend fun get Avengers, and this will return safe API call, and I will hit get Avengers like this. Now in return, I will get resource of type list of Avenger. So this I will get from this get Avengers function. Now I can use this function inside my view model and I can check whether we have a success or an error. So let's create a view model. So I will create a view model, and for now I will name it main activity view model like this. And because I am creating a view model, I need to extend or inherit view model like this. And inside this class, this is now our view model, and inside this class I will create another function that will call the repositories function to get the Avengers. So what I will do is I will pass the API to my view model. So we have private val API. Sorry, I do not need to pass API, but I need to pass the repository. So the view model will not directly interact with the API, but it will interact with the repository. So what I'll do is I will write private val repository of type Avengers repository. Now I will create a function here. Let's create a function named fun get Avengers, and I will use view model scope to call the suspending function. So I have view model scope.launch, and here I can call val result equals to repository dot get Avengers. So to get this result, what I can use is I can use a live data. So let's use a live data. So what I'll do is I will create a private val and I will name it Avengers, and it is of type mutable live data, of type resource, of type list of Avenger, like this. We need to import the resource, and we have private val Avengers, and I will create one more val because I want to observe it in my activity. So I will create a val, and this time I will create Avengers of type live data, of type the same thing, resource list Avenger. So I'll copy this, I will paste it here, and that's it. And for the getter, I will return Avengers. So I have mutable live data that is private for this class, and I have a public Avengers that is live data that is immutable. So what I will do is I will simply write Avengers, that is underscore Avengers dot value equals to repository dot get Avengers. Now I can observe this Avengers in my main activity. But before that, I need to create a view model factory because my view model contains a parameter. And because it contains a parameter, I cannot directly create an instance of this view model. But I need a factory to create this view model. So what I will do is I will create a Kotlin file class and I will name it main activity view model factory. We can remove all these things if we will use a dependency injection, but for now I want to make things simpler, and that is why I am not using a lot of third-party libraries. So I will create a factory. So this is main activity view model factory, and I will extend view model provider dot new instance factory like this. I will override a function that is create. Now I need to pass the repository to my view model. So I will write here private val repository of type Avengers repository, and I will return here return main activity view model, and we can pass repository like this. And we also need to cast it as T, and it's done. So we have the factory, we have the view model, and now we can fetch the list of Avengers in our main activity. But before this, we need to create the view model. Now let's see here. To create the view model, we need this view model factory. And to create this view model factory, we need this Avengers repository. And to create this repository, we need this Avengers API. So everything is linked. And for now, I am not using any dependency injection. So I will create all the instances manually. So to make things easier, what we can do is we can create a base activity class. So let's create a base activity. So we have base activity like this, and this will be an app compat activity, and I will make it abstract because I do not want to make an instance of this base activity class, but I will derive my actual activities using this base activity. Now inside this class, I will define everything that is required. So the first thing that is required is private val API, and we need the Avengers API. So we have the API, Now we need the repository. So we have private val repository equals to Avengers repository, and we will pass the API. Now we need private val factory of type view model factory. So we have main activity view model factory, and we will pass the repository here. Now with the help of this factory, we can create our view model. Now the view model I will define in main activity class. So instead of this app compat activity, now I will inherit base activity like this. Now I already have the factory here because I am inheriting or deriving my main activity using this base activity. So what I can do here is I can create private late init var view model, and it will be of type main activity view model like this. And now I can initialize the view model. So now I can write view model equals to, we will use the view model provider. So we have view model provider. For the first parameter we need to pass the owner, and I will pass this because this activity is the owner of this view model. And for the factory, I can simply pass the factory that I have created in the base activity. So I will write factory here, but it is giving an error, and it is because the factory is private. So I will make the factory as protected. So now we will call the get function to get the view model, and we will pass main activity view model because we want to get this view model like this. So we have the view model, and with the help of this view model we can call the function that is get Avengers. Or because we do not need to pass any authentication header or anything that requires some processing in the app side, we can simply fetch the Avengers when the instance of the view model is created. So I will make this get Avengers private, and whenever we will create the instance of the view model, that means the init block, inside the init block we can call the function get Avengers. And I do not need to call get Avengers from here. I will just observe the result here. So I will write view model dot Avengers dot observe. For the owner I will pass this, and I will pass a trailing lambda, and here I will get the result, that is resource of type list of type Avenger. Now here I can write when result, and I can pass all the available cases, and these are success, loading and failure. Now for the loading state, what I can do is I can write here Avengers dot value equals to repository dot, not repository but resource dot loading like this. So I have all the states. Now let's leave the failure and loading for now. So I will just write empty blocks here like this. Same applies for this to do. I will write it like this. Now let's consider the success case only. So when we have the success, we have list of Avengers. So we have val Avengers equals to result dot data. We have the list of Avengers. Now what we need to do is we need to design our activity main.xml, and here we will display the list of Avengers in the recycler view. Now again I will do the design very quickly in a snap. So we have the main activity design ready. We have some image views, some text. The important thing here is this discrete scroll view. So if you go to this discrete scroll view, it extends recycler view only. So I am using this scroll view to create that effect that we are seeing in our home screen. So instead of the recycler view, I will use this discrete scroll view. And the process of creating the adapter is same. We will create the list adapter again. And in the last tutorial about integrating Stream API, I have told you guys about creating a generic list adapter that we can use. So again, I will use the same class here. Now again, to store the base classes, let's create a package. So I will name it base. Let's put the base activity inside this base package, and inside this base package only I will create base list adapter, and we are going to use the old code here. So we have the list adapter with view binding, and we have the click listeners as well. So everything is ready. Now we can simply use this base list adapter to create our actual Avengers list adapter. So what I will do is I will create one more class and I will name it Avengers adapter. Now I will use the base list adapter and I will pass Avenger as the item, and for view binding I have already created a layout file here, that is item underscore Avenger. So here I will write item Avenger binding like this. That's it. Now we also need to pass a diff util to our base list adapter, and we can do it the same way we did in the last video. So let's do it very quickly. Now let's override some functions that are required. So we basically have two functions. The first one is get item view binding and the next one is bind item. So let's create the item Avenger binding here. So what we will do is we will simply write item Avenger binding dot, and instead of this colon I will write equals to here. So we have item Avenger binding dot inflate. Now here we need to pass the layout inflator, so we will write layout inflator dot from, and for the context we will use this parent. The next parameter is the parent and the last parameter is false. So we have the item view binding. Now in place of bind item we will bind the data to our Avengers card, and I have already shown you that I have created this item Avenger card. So this contains an app compat view and app compat text view and the transformation layout, because we want to add some effects, but for now we will not add effect because it will make things more complicated. So right now we are going to make just basic list of our Avengers. Now let's bind items to the binding. So here we have poster, we have the profile image for the Avenger, and we have the name for the Avenger. So let's do it very quickly. First I will bind the name. So I will write binding dot name dot text equals to item dot name. Then we will write binding dot poster dot load, and we will pass the URL, and the URL we will get from the item. So we have poster like this. The same way we will load profile dot load. Now we don't have the profile picture in our Avenger model class, but we have the profile picture in the stream backend because all Avengers are already registered there, and that is why we already have the authentication token in the API response. So to get the profile picture I will use this simple function, and to get the profile picture the key that we have is image. So either we will get the image or we will get a random image. So what we will do here is we will use item dot get profile image to get the profile picture. So now we have binded all the items with our item Avenger binding. Now we can use this Avengers adapter to display the list of Avengers. And I think I forget to write this comparator here. So I will just write comparator like this. And that's it. We have the Avengers adapter ready. Now come back to main activity, and here we will simply create an instance of the adapter. So I will write here private val adapter equals to Avengers adapter like this, and I can create a binding for the activity main, and I think we can do it in the base activity, but we will do it later. For now, let's just create the binding manually here. So I will write private late init var binding of type activity main binding like this. And here I can create the binding equals to activity main binding dot inflate, and I can pass layout inflator like this. Now instead of this r.layout.activity main, I will pass binding dot root here. Now with the help of this binding, I will set the recycler view adapter. So we have adapter equals to adapter. And now inside the success block, we will write adapter.submit list and we will pass Avengers like this. And that's it. It should work if we add the internet permission here. So we will write the internet permission and we will also allow the clear text traffic like this. Now let's run the application and see whether it is working or not. And here you can see our application is crashing and it is a very simple error. I am using the chat client here and I have not yet initialized the chat client. So just for now, for the profile image, I will comment this part. And in the next section, when we will use the stream things and we will initialize the stream chat client, we will use this code. So for now, I am commenting this part. Now let's run the application again. So you can see here that we have the home screen, we have the logos, and we also have a list. But right now we are not able to see anything. And it is because for the effect that I shown you in the intro, I have used a wheel layout. So we will use it to unveil the Avengers poster. So let's do it now. So here, if we go to item Avenger binding, you can see I have a wheel layout. And we need to unveil this layout to show our Avengers poster. And to do this, what I will do is I will create an extension function, because if I write it here, it will be too much of code and I don't want to make this place dirty. So what I will do is I will create one more package to store my utils file. So I will create utils, and I just realized that I have created the Avengers adapter inside data package. So it should be outside this package because it is related to UI. So for now, I will put it here only. Now inside utils, what I will do is I will create a file named util, or name it utils. Now inside this file, what I will do is I will create an extension for my poster, and because I'm using an app compat image view, I will create an extension for app compat image view. So here I will create fun app compat image view dot load, or let's name it load and unveil like this. So I will create a request here, val request. Then I will create the request using the class that is image request. Now it is a class from coil that we are using as our image loading library. So we have image request, then we will call the builder. It follows the popular builder pattern and we will build it. Now before building, we will call some functions. The first function that we will call is the data, and it will define the data that we want to load. And we are getting the image or the poster from a URL. So I will pass the poster string to the parameter, this load and unveil functions parameter. Now for the data, I can pass the poster. Then we can call the function target to define where we need to load this image. And for target, we will pass this because we want to load the image inside this app compat image view. And because we are inside an extension of app compat image view, we can use this to refer the current instance. Now we will also define the life cycle, and again I can use this and this function, that is find view tree life cycle. So we have the life cycle. Now finally we will add a listener, and not this one, but we will have few function inside the listener, and these are on cancel, on error, on success. So we have on start, on cancel, on error, on success, but we will use only three. So we will use on cancel, and then on error, and then on success. So for on error we have a parameter, that is, let's check. So for on error we have the request and we have the throwable, and for success again we have the request, we have the metadata. So we need to define here. For on error we have request and throwable like this. For on success we have request and metadata like this. Now when it is a success, we will unveil our wheel layout, and that is why we also need the instance of the wheel layout. So let's see where it is. I'll go again to this item Avenger, and here we have our wheel layout. So we have this wheel layout. Come back to utils, and I will pass a wheel layout here. So we have wheel layout like this. Now here what we will do, we will write wheel layout dot unveil like this. And for now we can call the same function in all the cases like this. And one more thing I forget, here we need to pass the context, and again to get the context we can use this dot context or just context. That's it. Now we have load and unveil. We just need to enqueue this request. And to enqueue this request, we will use this app compat image view instance. So what we will do is we will write this dot context dot image loader, and then enqueue, and we will pass the request. Now we will use this function to bind the poster with our app compat image view. So let's go back to Avengers adapter, and here we will write instead of this load, we will write load and unveil. We will pass the poster and we will pass the wheel layout, and this layout we will get from this binding instance. So we will write here binding dot item wheel layout like this. Now it should work. So let's run the application, and you can see we are getting the recycler view and we have the list of Avengers here. Now we can also add that zoom effect, but we will do it later. So it is working absolutely fine, and that's all for section 1. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something. In case you have any problem or confusion or question, you can leave it in the comments below, and I will try to help you out. And again, if you like this video, then please hit on that like button, subscribe to stream, and don't forget to share this video with all your friends. So thanks for watching everyone. This is Bilal Khan now signing off.